My adopted brother tried to fool everyone, but my billionaire family unmasked him. I'd spent my entire life trapped in this isolated corner of West Virginia. It was a constant uphill battle. My foster parents were indifferent, to say the least. They even refused to send me to school when I was old enough, and it took 2 years of the town's persistent nagging before I was finally allowed to step into a classroom. Everything changed 3 years ago when a flash flood unleashed a mudslide that tragically swept them away. I only survived because I was living in a school dorm at the time, but life only grew more challenging after that. I resigned myself to that dreary existence, believing I was destined to stay there forever. Yet it seemed fate had finally decided to throw me a bone. I was on my way out the door, headed for my dishwashing shift at the local diner, when a police cruiser pulled up in front of my dilapidated apartment building. Close behind, a sleek black Escalade followed. A middle-aged couple emerged from the luxury SUV. As my gaze met the man's face, my heart gave a sudden violent lurch. A state trooper approached holding a file. "Are you J.D. Vance?" he asked. I simply nodded. What happened next felt ripped straight from a daytime TV drama. My new father had his driver distribute thick envelopes of cash to the neighbors who'd offered me kindness over the years. After a few hurried goodbyes, I settled into the plush leather seats of the luxury SUV. "Your name is Ethan Donovan," my father began to explain as the car pulled away. "Back then, your mother and I were just starting our business, working tirelessly to get it off the ground. We left you with your sister. She's 6 years older but only 9 at the time. She got distracted playing. And all these years," he continued, his voice heavy with emotion, "we never not once stopped searching for you. So, my name was Ethan Donovan and I had a sister. What about my family?" I began to ask, unsure how to even phrase the question. "Your sister is Chloe Donovan, the actress," my mother interjected, her eyes alight. "She's filming in Europe right now. When we told her we'd found you, she broke down, insisted on stopping production, and flying back immediately. The earliest she can arrive is likely tomorrow," she added. "You also have a cousin living with us, a month younger than you." A cousin? A cold knot of dread formed in my stomach. Only days before, I'd overheard the diner staff gossiping about those trashy web dramas. The kind where a wealthy family locates their long-lost son, only because their adopted child needs a kidney. I instinctively touched my side. My birth parents couldn't be that cruel, could they? My father, unaware of my sudden unease, simply sighed. "Your aunt and her husband died years ago. A drunk driver. Your cousin was only 6 with no one to care for him. So, your mother and I took him in and he took our last name. His name is Caleb." I leaned back, my mind spinning. An adopted cousin. The true heir versus the replacement. The entire situation reeked of trouble. If this Caleb turned out to be decent, fine. But if he was anything like those conniving characters from web novels, the kind who'd usurped my life and intended to make my existence a living hell, I gritted my teeth. I wasn't some spineless protagonist who'd simply turn and walk away. What was mine, and I'd be damned if I let anyone push me around or make me feel insignificant ever again. In a single day, I had ridden in a luxury car, flown on a private jet, and now I was about to live in a mansion, all for the first time. As the Escalade ascended the long, winding driveway, my jaw dropped. It was a sprawling stone mansion, precisely the kind I'd only ever glimpsed in Architectural Digest. A massive fountain in the circular drive launched plumes of water skyward, shimmering with rainbow hues beneath the carefully placed landscape lights. "Ethan, this is our home," my mother said, squeezing my hand, her voice brimming with hope. As we approached the grand entrance, a handsome young man in his early 20s awaited us. He wore a tailored button-down and slacks, thin-framed glasses lending him a sharp intellectual air. The moment he saw us, his eyes reddened. He rushed over, offered my parents a respectful nod, then turned to me. "Ethan," he began, his voice cracking, "it's so good to finally meet you. Welcome home. I'm Caleb, your cousin." He sounded on the verge of tears. "I heard about everything you went through. It's a miracle you're finally home where you belong." Before I could respond, he turned back to my parents, his eyes welling up further. "I'm so happy for you both for finally finding him." With that, he picked up a suitcase at his feet. "Now that Ethan is back, it's not right for me to keep occupying his space. The life I've had, the privileges I've enjoyed, it should have all been his. I'll leave now." He wiped away a tear. "Please take care of yourselves. And thank you for everything you've done for me all these years." I observed his little charade, this entire song and dance of feigned departure, and had to suppress a laugh. Here we go, I thought. What a two-faced snake. "So, you want to play the victim? I can do that too." As he turned to make his dramatic exit, I discreetly dug my nails into my thigh. The sharp, searing pain instantly brought tears to my eyes. Wait! My voice came out as a choked whisper, trembling even more than his had. Caleb turned back, a flicker of genuine surprise in his eyes. I wiped my face, letting the tears stream freely. I shouldn't have come back. The minute I show up, I'm already tearing this family apart. How could I do that to my own parents? I looked at my mom and dad, my head bowed in apparent shame. I spent my whole life in a small town, barely finishing high school. How am I supposed to compare to Caleb, who's had the best education money can buy? If I stay here, I'll just be an embarrassment to you. Maybe it's better if I just leave before I cause any more trouble. I grabbed my own worn canvas duffel bag and turned towards the door. What is this nonsense? My father grabbed my arm, his grip firm. You are my son. Even if you don't know a thing about this world, that's our fault. We have so much to make up for. My mother rushed to my other side. Ethan, don't even think that. We feel nothing but love and guilt for what you've endured. We could never, ever be ashamed of you. I peeked over my shoulder. Caleb's face was frozen, a mask of disbelief. My father turned and glared at him. Caleb, stop this foolishness. Do you honestly think we can't afford to raise two sons? You will always have a place here. But don't say things that make your cousin feel unwelcome. My mother's tone was tinged with annoyance. You know you've lived a life of comfort for over a decade while he suffered. The least you could do is be generous and mature about this, not throw a childish tantrum. For a split second, Caleb's expression contorted into a snarl. He gripped his suitcase handle, knuckles white, before finally lowering his head. I understand, Uncle Auntie. I watched him bite his lower lip, realizing immediately what was happening. Caleb's little gambit of feigning departure was so transparent, my parents saw right through it. Their words weren't just comforting me. They were a clear warning to him. Good, I thought, letting out a quiet sigh of relief. It seemed real-life parents weren't the clueless idiots from web novel dramas, easily swayed by a few crocodile tears. But as I glanced at Caleb, it seemed my new cousin was the one with a few screws loose. The days ahead wouldn't be quiet. Fine by me. The hell I'd been through hadn't been for nothing. If anyone wanted to mess with me, they'd better think long and hard about whether they were up for the fight. The dinner table atmosphere felt peculiar. Caleb repeatedly placed food on my plate. A look of profound sincerity plastered across his face. I ignored him, refusing to touch anything he served, simply keeping my head down and shoveling food into my mouth, knowing full well he was already plotting his next move. Predictably, the moment we finished eating, Caleb stood up. I'm heading upstairs, Ethan. You should get some rest too. I merely grunted in response. I waited until he was halfway up the grand staircase before slowly rising to follow. As I reached the landing, I saw him standing there, his back to me, waiting just around the corner. My stomach plummeted. I froze. He spun around, his glasses sliding down his nose. The polite, scholarly demeanor from earlier had vanished, replaced by a venomous hatred that felt laced with poison. Why did you have to come back? He hissed. I remained silent, waiting for him to continue. I heard your foster parents died in a mudslide. He took 2 steps closer, his voice a low, menacing hiss. Why didn't you die with them? Why do you have to come back and try to take what's mine? How can you be so selfish? His words were so warped I almost laughed. My entire sense of morality felt like it was being trampled. Are you mentally ill? I asked, staring him down. I'm their son. If anyone's the imposter who stole someone else's life, it's you. This is my home. I've lived here for 16 years. I swear I can make everyone in this family despise you. I can make them throw you out like a dog. My internal alarm bells screamed. Here it was. The real performance was about to begin. He leaned in closer, a cruel smirk on his face. Who do you think they'll believe? Me, the son they've raised for over a decade? Or you, the uneducated hick who just crawled out of the backwoods? Before I could react, he suddenly swung his elbow back, slamming it into a large ceramic vase perched on a pedestal at the landing's corner. It crashed to the marble floor with a deafening shatter, sending shards flying everywhere. Ah! He screamed, stumbling backward and conveniently falling directly onto a pile of the broken pieces. What was that? What's going on? I heard my parents' voices from downstairs, followed by the hurried sound of their footsteps. I looked up to see them halfway up the stairs, their eyes fixed on the shattered vase in Caleb's hand, which was now bleeding from a fresh cut. Caleb's eyes immediately welled with tears. His voice trembled as he looked fearfully from them to me. I'm so sorry, Uncle Auntie. It was my fault. I was talking to Ethan and I said the wrong thing. I upset him. He didn't mean to do it. Please don't be angry with him. I just stood there watching his pathetic backstabbing performance. It was almost comical. My mother came up the rest of the way, looking at the mess and then at me. Ethan, what happened here? Caleb kept the act going. It was really my fault. I wasn't standing properly. I rolled my eyes, too weary to play along with his soap opera. I didn't break the vase. I glanced at the shards on the floor, my voice flat. Of course I don't have any proof. You can believe me or not. I looked them straight in the eye. I suggest you install some security cameras around the house. It would prevent this kind of he said, she said nonsense in the future. My father was silent for a moment, then placed a hand on my shoulder. We believe you, Ethan. We know you wouldn't deliberately cause trouble. My mother nodded in agreement. They both turned to look at Caleb, their expressions hardening. Caleb, is there some misunderstanding between you and your cousin? If you have something to say, say it. Don't resort to this kind of drama. The color drained from Caleb's face. His bleeding hand clenched into a fist, and he couldn't hide the bitter resentment in his eyes. He bit his lip and looked down. No misunderstanding. I guess the vase wasn't placed securely. It must have fallen on its own just as Ethan was walking by. I must have seen it wrong. He looked up at me, his voice barely a whisper. Ethan, I'm sorry. I jumped to conclusions. Please don't be mad at me. Can you forgive me? I let out a short, sharp laugh and said nothing. His story was unraveling, and that was the best excuse he could muster. Who did he think he was fooling? My parents exchanged a look and sighed, not saying another word. They simply asked a housekeeper to clean up the mess. They hadn't believed his ridiculous story for a second. They were just trying to save him some face. You don't build a billion-dollar empire by being unable to see through a teenager's clumsy theatrics. Clearly, my dear cousin hadn't anticipated that the parents who'd raised him for 16 years weren't about to blindly take his side. I glanced at Caleb's lowered head and smirked. I'd eaten dirt for 16 years. I'd seen every kind of deception and dirty trick in the book. My backbone was made of steel. You want to make me suffer? Not a chance in hell. The following day was a blur of bureaucracy. I spent the entire day with my father, changing my legal name, applying for a new social security number, the whole 9 yards. It was exhausting. In the car, my father mentioned Caleb had left early that morning to meet Audrey Reed, daughter of the Reed family. The Reeds are old business partners, he explained. Walter Reed and I thought it would be a good idea for the two of them to spend some time together. If they hit it off, we could merge the two dynasties. I kept my face straight. Audrey Reed. The name sounded like something out of an old Hollywood film. All class and sophistication. I had to shake my head. Those damn web novels were rotting my brain, making me slap labels on people I'd never even met. We arrived home late that afternoon. Just as we walked in, I heard the sound of a rolling suitcase behind us. I turned to see a woman in a stylish beige trench coat and dark sunglasses striding toward us. The moment she removed her glasses, her eyes were red. Ethan. Her voice trembled. She rushed over and threw her arms around me, her tears soaking my shoulder. I'm so sorry. It's all my fault. I should have been watching you. I'm so sorry you had to suffer so much. I stood there frozen, unsure where to put my hands. This had to be my sister, the famous actress Chloe Donovan. On screen she was an untouchable, glamorous star. But right now she was just my sister, holding me and crying. It's okay, I said, awkwardly patting her back and gently creating some space between us. You were just a kid too. It wasn't your fault. The people to blame are the ones who took me. She wiped her tears and managed a small smile. You're pretty good at this whole comforting thing, aren't you? Just then I felt a hateful glare emanating from the top of the stairs. I didn't have to look to know who it was. I was surprised he was back so soon from his date with Audrey. When Caleb realized I'd noticed him, he plastered on a fake smile and descended. Chloe, you're back. I thought you were still filming in Europe. My sister's face hardened. My little brother, missing for 16 years, was just found. Don't you think it's reasonable that I couldn't wait another second? I took the first red eye I could get. I could practically see the cracks forming in Caleb's friendly, harmless mask. Keep it up, I thought. Let's see how long you can maintain this act. The more he schemed, the faster he'd crash and burn. Especially with a family that actually had their heads on straight. The following evening, the Donovans hosted a small reception at one of their downtown hotels. My father stood with me in the center of the ballroom. Everyone, I'd like you to meet my son Ethan. After 16 long years, he's finally home. The room erupted in applause and congratulations. People patted me on the back, telling me I had my father's eyes. Unaccustomed to this kind of attention, I stood there with a stiff smile plastered on my face. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Caleb across the room, champagne flute in hand, amiably chatting with guests. He appeared perfectly composed, but when his eyes met mine, I saw a flash of pure venom that he quickly disguised. I merely smiled to myself, not letting it show. Just then my father drew me over to another table. "Ethan, this is Walter Reed, one of my oldest friends." He then gestured to the young woman beside him. "And this is his daughter, Audrey." I finally got a good look at her. She was tall and elegant in a pale blue dress, her hair styled perfectly. When she smiled, 2 faint dimples appeared. She was beautiful, but in a clean, classic way, nothing like the femme fatale I had pictured. "Mr. Reed, Miss Reed, a pleasure," I said, keeping it formal. Walter Reed smiled warmly. "It's good to have you back, son. Your father has moved heaven and earth looking for you." Audrey offered a polite smile of her own. "It's nice to meet you, Ethan." After a few minutes of small talk, I excused myself. Only 2 days ago, I was scrubbing pans in a diner, wondering how I'd afford dinner. Now I stood in a glittering ballroom, listening to conversations about stock portfolios and mergers. I was completely out of my element. My sister Chloe found me a few minutes later and handed me a glass of juice. "A little overwhelming, isn't it? Don't worry, you'll get used to it. I'll teach you." I took the glass, and the genuine warmth in her eyes made me feel a little less like an alien. Later in the evening, I went to the men's room. I had just washed my hands and was drying them when I turned to find Caleb blocking the doorway, his arms crossed, his eyes dark and menacing. "Feeling pretty proud of yourself?" he hissed, his voice low and tight. "The whole family is wrapped around your little finger. You think you've won." He took a step closer, jealousy practically dripping from him. I was by their side for 16 years. Whenever Chloe came home, I was the first person she asked about. "Why do you get to come back and steal everything from me?" I was done playing games with him. I didn't even look up. "Because I'm their son. Is that reason enough for you? You." His face contorted into a mask of rage, like a cat whose tail had been stepped on. "I can let the other things slide, but if you dare to even think about Audrey, I swear to God I will kill you." His logic was so warped I could only frown. "Dude, are you insane? I've said exactly 2 sentences to her tonight. Basically hello and goodbye." I looked him up and down. "You might be a little paranoid." "Don't play dumb," he suddenly shouted, his eyes full of venom. "Those old bastards are probably already thinking about setting you up with her instead of me. And don't think I didn't see you looking at her. Do you think I'm blind?" I was completely speechless. This guy was certifiable. "Think whatever you want." I tried to step around him. "All I care about right now is getting through college. I couldn't give less of a damn about your romantic drama. If you're smart, you'll stay out of my way, and we can at least pretend to be civil." As the words left my mouth, his entire demeanor shifted. The menacing rage vanished, replaced by a look of pure terror. His voice began shaking violently. "Ethan, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I won't fight you for anything, I swear. Please just leave me alone." My stomach lurched. Oh no. Before I could process what was happening, he slapped himself hard across the left cheek. The sound echoed in the marble restroom. A bright red handprint instantly appeared on his skin. Then he grabbed a heavy-duty mop from the corner and, to my utter shock, slammed the handle into his own forehead. There was a sickening thud, and blood immediately began to trickle down his face, dripping onto his crisp white shirt. I was so stunned I couldn't move. He actually did it. "Arg!" he screamed, stumbling dramatically out of the restroom. I ran out after him, but by the time I reached the corridor, the party had already devolved into chaos. "Caleb, my God, you're bleeding." It was my parents and sister. When I reached them, Caleb was clutching his head, sobbing. "Dad, Mom, Chloe. Ethan didn't do anything. I just fell in the restroom. It has nothing to do with him." Audrey stood nearby, her face pale, her eyes wide with horror at Caleb's injury. My father's brow was deeply furrowed as his questioning gaze fell on me. Chloe stepped in front of me, her expression icy. "Caleb, why don't you try telling the truth for once? Can you stop being so damn vague and manipulative?" My mother looked from a weeping Caleb back to me. "Ethan, you tell us what happened." I just shrugged. "I didn't touch him. Believe it or not, it's up to you." The air in the hallway grew thick with tension. Caleb was still crying, and Audrey looked between me and Caleb, a thoughtful, confused expression on her face. My father took a deep breath and addressed the remaining guests. "Everyone, I apologize for the disruption this evening. Please forgive our family matter. We will make it up to you all." That was the cue for everyone to leave. Soon, the only people left were our family and the Reeds. The hotel's on-call doctor had already bandaged Caleb's forehead. He sat on a sofa, half his face still red and swollen. My father sat opposite him, his face as dark as a thundercloud. Now that everyone is gone, talk. What really happened? Before I could speak, Caleb launched into his story, the tears flowing freely. Dad, I want to talk to Ethan. I wanted to tell him that this home, the inheritance, all of it is his. I won't fight him for any of it. He choked on a sob. But I truly love Audrey. I just wanted to ask him if he could please. He looked at me pleadingly. But he said everything I have should have been his. He said an adopted nobody like me didn't deserve someone like Audrey. And then and then I slapped you and smashed your head with a mop. I finished for him, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Caleb flinched and lowered his head. I know you hate me for taking her place, but Audrey is the one thing. I really love her. I didn't say another word. I just looked at my parents and my sister, waiting for their reaction. Chloe was the first to break, letting out a sharp, derisive laugh. Caleb, in my new movie, I play the villain's manipulative best friend who tries to break up the main couple. We filmed a scene almost exactly like this just last week. She shot a withering glare at Caleb, whose face was rapidly losing color. Honestly, I feel like you're insulting my intelligence. Trying to outact me in my own house. It's embarrassing. My mother sighed, her eyes filled with disappointment. This is the second time, Caleb. The vase the other night. Your father and I knew what was going on. We kept quiet because we thought you were just having a hard time adjusting. We were giving you the benefit of the doubt. But this is too far. Caleb panicked, grabbing my mother's arm. Mom, no, it's not like that. You've known me my whole life. We thought we knew you, my father interrupted, his voice heavy with fatigue. It appears we were wrong. Caleb turned to Audrey, grabbing her hand desperately. Audrey, you have to believe me. We've been seeing each other for a while. You know I would never. Audrey slowly pulled her hand away. She opened her purse, took out a small compact mirror, and held it up to his face. Caleb, you said Ethan hit your left cheek. Look in the mirror. The handprint is upside down. That only happens when you hit yourself. All the color drained from Caleb's face. I smirked, twisting the knife. And you said I hit you with a mop? Then my fingerprints should be all over it. I looked at my father. If you want to be sure, we can have the handle dusted for prints. That should clear things up pretty quickly. Caleb's eyes rolled back as if he was about to faint, but Chloe's sharp voice cut through the air. Don't even think about fainting. That trick only works in those garbage web dramas. No sane person thinks passing out solves their problems. Caleb, who had started to slump over, straightened up abruptly. Then he collapsed to his knees on the floor, a mess of tears and snot. I'm sorry, Dad. Mom, Chloe, Audrey. I was just so scared. I was afraid you would all leave me for him, that I would end up with nothing. It was a moment of weakness. Audrey picked up her purse and stood to leave. Caleb, you have disappointed me more than I can say. The man I want to be with is not a petty, manipulative coward. Walter Reed shook his head. Donovan, let's put the talk of a merger on hold. I don't think Caleb is the right fit for our Audrey. No, Mr. Reed. Caleb scrambled towards him, but a security guard blocked his path. I really do love Audrey. Please just give me one more chance. My father waved his hand in disgust. Get him out of my sight. The guards grabbed Caleb, who was now screaming and struggling, and dragged him away. My father turned to the Reeds, his face etched with shame. Walter, I am so sorry. That boy is a disgrace. We will discuss the business alliance at a later date. After we saw the Reeds off and returned to the mansion, my father lost his temper for the first time. He slapped Caleb hard across his already swollen face. You embarrassing piece of trash, he roared, pointing at the door. Get out. Go to your birth parents' old house and stay there for a month. And you'd better do some serious thinking about the person you've become. Caleb looked desperately at my mother and sister, but they both turned away, refusing to intervene. I stood to the side, watching as the guards dragged him away. His eyes fixed on me were filled with a poisonous hatred. I felt nothing. It just goes to show you he dug his own grave. He could have had a life of ease and comfort, but he had to throw it all away on petty jealousy. What an idiot. Still, a small part of me wondered why my parents didn't kick him out for good. Sending him away for just a month seemed incredibly lenient after everything he'd done. The next day, I caught my sister in a good mood and decided to ask, Chloe, don't you think Mom and Dad are being a little too soft on Caleb? She was in the middle of serving me breakfast, and her hand paused. She sighed. There's some history there, Ethan. When Mom was in high school, she had leukemia. The only person whose bone marrow was a perfect match was her younger sister, Caleb's mother. After my aunt and uncle died in that car crash, Mom and Dad felt responsible for Caleb. They felt like they owed his mother a debt they could never repay. So they poured all of that gratitude and guilt into raising him. Even now, after what he's done, they can't bring themselves to completely cut him off. It all clicked into place, but a sense of unease settled in my stomach. That kind of love tangled up with guilt was a dangerous thing. I had a feeling Caleb wasn't going to just sit quietly and reflect on his sins. Things remained calm for a few days. Chloe had flown back to Europe to finish her film, and Caleb was supposedly atoning at the old house. I almost let my guard down, but then the other shoe dropped. I was on my way home from class when I received a frantic call from my father. "Ethan, get to the university hospital right now. There's been an incident." When I arrived, the emergency room hallway buzzed with activity. Audrey was sitting on a bench, her face as white as a sheet. My mother saw me and rushed over. Ethan, on her way home from campus, two guys on a motorcycle forced Audrey's car off the road. Her driver was knocked unconscious, and they tried to drag her out of the car. She gestured towards the hospital room. Caleb was driving by and saw what was happening. He jumped in and fought them off to save her. They stabbed him several times before running away. I didn't go into the room. Audrey told me it looked like a lot of blood, but thankfully the wounds weren't deep and had missed any major organs. He wasn't in any danger. He'd just need a couple of weeks to recover. Did they catch the guys who did it? I asked my father. His face was grim. They're gone. It was a professional job. They were on an international flight before the police could even lock down the airports. I frowned. Something about this entire story felt wrong. This heroic rescue had completely changed Audrey's opinion of Caleb, but the timing was just a little too perfect. Nothing happens, and then suddenly, right when he's been cast out and the marriage alliance is off the table, he just happens to be in the right place at the right time to save the day. I stood outside the hospital room, looking through the glass window. Caleb was lying in bed, pale and weak, giving Audrey a fragile smile. But I could see the triumphant glint in his eyes that he couldn't quite hide. I turned and walked away, a cold smile on my face. It was clear his little timeout hadn't taught him a thing. It had just given him time to concoct a more elaborate, dangerous scheme. But did he really think this act would hold up? Even I could see the holes in it. My parents were just panicked and worried right now. Once the dust settled, they'd start asking the same questions I was. 2 weeks later, Caleb was discharged and moved back into the mansion. He wore a mask of convincing frailty, even offering me a small, deliberate smile, as if our previous conflicts had never occurred. I ignored him. This quiet was merely the calm before another storm. Only this time I wasn't going to wait for him to make the first move. The following weekend, Caleb took Audrey out on a date dinner. A movie, the whole perfect boyfriend routine. By the time the movie let out, it was almost 10 at night. Caleb led Audrey to the underground parking garage. Just as they reached his car, 3 men in ski masks, brandishing knives, jumped out from behind a concrete pillar. Audrey barely had time to scream before one of them clamped a chloroform-soaked cloth over her mouth. She went limp in seconds. Caleb tried to fight back, but the other 2 men easily overpowered him, holding him down while the third knocked him out with the same chloroformed rag. When he woke up, he was tied to a cold steel pillar, his hands and feet bound tightly. Tied to the pillar next to him was Audrey, still unconscious. It was a windowless room, lit by a single harsh fluorescent bulb. In the corner, a security camera pointed directly at them. "Well, look who's awake." A distorted voice crackled from a speaker near the camera. It was electronically altered, impossible to identify as male or female. Caleb flinched, struggling against his ropes. "Who are you? Why did you kidnap us? I'm warning you, my family is the Donovans. If you touch me, they'll hunt you down." "The Donovans?" The voice chuckled. "That's exactly why we went to all this trouble." Another distorted voice, this one dripping with mockery, chimed in. "We staked you 2 out for days, waiting for the perfect opportunity. You've got the Donovans and the Reeds, 2 of the richest families in the state. We're about to get a very big payday." Caleb's eyes darted around frantically. "You've got the wrong person. I'm not their real son, I'm just adopted. You should have grabbed Ethan Donovan. He's the real heir. He's worth way more than me. I can tell you how to find him." "Nice try," the first voice scoffed. "We did our homework. Ethan just came back into the picture. To them, he's a stranger. You, on the other hand, they've invested in for 16 years. The voice paused, its tone becoming heavier. "And besides, you've got Miss Reed here with you, the sole heir to the Reed fortune. This one score will set us up for life." Just then, a third, more brutal voice cut in. "Boss, I say we make this clean. Once we get the money, we kill them both and dump the bodies in the river. It's too risky letting them go. Caleb's face went chalk white, sweat soaking his shirt. No, please. We can talk about this. I'll give you anything you want, just don't kill me. Anything? What if we want a taste of your pretty little girlfriend here? Caleb didn't hesitate for a single second. Take her. Do whatever you want with her. Just give her something to knock her out, so she won't remember anything. Just please, once you have the money, let me live. He'd barely finished the sentence when the speaker went silent. Then Audrey, who was supposed to be unconscious, lifted her head. She flexed her wrists and, right in front of Caleb's horrified eyes, easily untied the ropes binding her. They had been tied so loosely it was clear they were just for show. Caleb's pupils shrank to pinpricks. The horrifying realization of what was happening dawned on him, but he was powerless, able to do nothing but watch as Audrey walked to the door and opened it. Standing in the doorway were my parents, their faces like stone. And me. Uncle. Auntie. Caleb's voice was a dry, cracking whisper. His body started to tremble uncontrollably. I let out a cold laugh. Well, Caleb, you've really outdone yourself this time. It's not what it looks like, he stammered, his eyes darting wildly to Audrey. Audrey, listen to me. I was just scared. I wasn't thinking straight. Audrey's face was like ice. I had my doubts after the first attack. You had just been punished and I happened to get assaulted. You lived in the opposite direction, yet you happened to be on my route home. You were stabbed multiple times, yet every single wound happened to be superficial. Caleb, do you really think I'm that stupid? No, that was, he struggled against the ropes, desperate to explain. I casually cleaned my ear with my pinky finger. Funny enough, I had the same questions. So, I asked Audrey to help me stage this little play. We let Mom and Dad in on it too. I shook my head. I can't believe you cracked in less than 3 minutes. For a guy who had the guts to stage a fake stabbing, you're a real coward when things get real. Audrey stared at him, her eyes full of disgust. I thought maybe, just maybe I was wrong. Maybe those attackers were real and you were a hero. A part of me hoped you were. I wanted to see what you would do in a real crisis. And what did you do? The second your own life was on the line, you served me up on a platter without a second thought. My father turned his face away in revulsion. As of this moment, you're no longer my nephew. Go back to where you came from. The Donovan family is done with you. Caleb turned to my mother, tears streaming down his face. Auntie, I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please, for my mother's sake, for what she did for you, give me one more chance. I swear I'll never do anything like this again. My mother just shook her head, the last bit of warmth in her eyes gone. It's too late. Have we not been good to you? We spent millions on you. Sent you to the best schools. Set you up with a wonderful young woman from a good family. And in return you've been a snake. You plotted against my son and played these disgusting manipulative games. I will not give you another chance to hurt my family. I actually tried to like you, Caleb, Audrey said, her voice shaking with a mixture of anger and fear. But you were so twisted and cruel. If I had actually married you, I'm terrified you would have devoured my family's company until there was nothing left. The light in Caleb's eyes finally died. I pulled his smartphone from my pocket. I'd taken it and used his thumbprint to unlock it while he was unconscious. And grinned. I was just looking for evidence of the fake attack, but I found something much more interesting. No, don't look at that. Caleb roared. I ignored him, holding the phone up for my parents and Audrey to see. Looks like your most used app is a web novel platform. You've got quite the reading list. On the screen was the unmistakable interface of an app called FIC Zone. The library was filled with titles like, My parents ignored me for the adopted son. Now they're begging me to come back. My 7 sisters loved the imposter and killed me. And my fiancé fell for the adopted brat, so I walked away. The plots are insane, I said, scrolling through. It's all stories where the fake heir cries a little, and the idiot parents force the real son to donate a kidney. Or the protagonist's girlfriend and sisters beat him to a pulp to make the adopted kid smile. It's hilarious. They act like anyone would believe such garbage. You didn't just read this trash, I continued, opening a document. You wrote out a whole playbook on how to frame me. It was all there. Plans to fake illnesses for sympathy, instructions on how to self-harm to frame me for assault, and worse. I laughed. Did you really think real life works like these stupid stories? That Mom and Dad were just mindless drones who would believe the weak, pitiful adopted son over their own flesh and blood? My father snorted. Even if we had never found Ethan, the Donovan fortune would have gone to Chloe. It would have never been yours. Audrey saw the rest of the plan on the phone and gasped, her body shaking with rage. You were going to drug me, frame Ethan for it, and then swoop in to play the hero, ruining his reputation forever? You are more evil than I could have ever imagined. I regret the day I ever met you. What do you know? Caleb suddenly shrieked, his mind completely snapping. The first time that bastard met you, you called him Ethan in that breathy little voice of yours like a smack. Audrey slapped him hard across the face. You're insane. Reading those stupid stories has poisoned your brain. Blood trickled from the corner of Caleb's mouth, but he started laughing, a wild, unhinged cackle. You forced me to do this. Why did you have to find him? Wasn't I good enough? And don't think I don't know why you named me Caleb, a replacement, a substitute. I hate that I didn't find that bastard and kill him years ago. I shouldn't have listened to those novels and played the victim. I should have just hired a truck to run you all off the road on your way home. You adopted me but never gave me everything. You owe me. You all deserve to die. Seeing the crazed look in his eyes, any last flicker of pity in my parents' faces vanished. My father turned to the guards. Take him away, he said, his voice cold as ice. I never want to see this creature again. What you do with him is your business. Just make sure I never hear about it. We turned and walked away. Behind us, we heard the guards moving in and Caleb's final desperate screams and curses. I glanced back one last time at the closed door. I didn't feel joy or victory, just a quiet final sense of peace. Another mind poisoned by garbage fiction. As if any of that nonsense could ever happen with sane, rational human beings. Some people, you learn, will not only walk straight into a wall but will try to tear the wall down so they can keep running in the wrong direction. After Caleb was gone, my parents never mentioned his name again. It was as if he had never existed. When Chloe heard the full story, she spent half an hour screaming into the phone. A wolf we raised for 16 years. Thank God he was an idiot and exposed himself early. Who knows what kind of damage he could have done otherwise. Life moved on. I finished college and slowly began to take over the family business. After I graduated, Audrey and I started dating. After what we'd been through, there was already a foundation of trust and understanding between us. The night before our wedding, Audrey was sitting at her vanity, trying on her veil. She turned to me with a playful smile. Ethan, you don't secretly read those trashy web novels, do you? I laughed and shook my head. I've tried. They lower your IQ. It's so bad it's almost funny. Her expression turned serious. I need to be clear about something. I'm not one of those cliché, dramatic heroines from a story. I don't have some long-lost childhood sweetheart or a secret protege I'm funding. I'm not going to hire a hot male assistant or a personal trainer with wandering hands. I don't even like going to the gym, and I hate interns. I walked over and adjusted her veil. Of course I believe you, I said with a smile. Besides, any real-life CEO who acted as recklessly as those characters would run her company into the ground in a week. She laughed, and the light in her eyes was as soft as moonlight. The wedding was beautiful. My parents and Chloe were beaming. Our life together was quiet but steady. We didn't have a dramatic, sweeping romance. Instead, we built our love day by day through shared routines and mutual respect. A few years later, she gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl, and our house became a whole lot louder. The Donovan and Reed enterprises merged, creating a true business empire. Every once in a while I think of Caleb, but it was just a fleeting thought. He was nothing more than a frog in a well, ignorant of the vast sky above him, watching my kids chase each other across the living room carpet. With Audrey leaning against my shoulder as she reviewed a contract, I lowered my head and kissed the top of her hair. A deep sense of peace washed over me. This is what life was supposed to be. Caleb's epilogue. Damn you FIC zone.